시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까? 리치투게더입니다. 테슬라 배터리데이가 내일 새벽에 개최가 됩니다. 한국 시간 오전 5시 반이고 온라인에서 생중계가 될 예정이니 관심 있으신 분들은 한번 시청해 보는 것도 괜찮을 것 같습니다. 당연하겠지만 배터리데이에서 기존 예상을 뛰어넘는 깜짝 발표가 나오면 테슬라를 포함한 관련 종목들의 주가가 상승할 것이고, 그렇지 않고 오히려 기대에 밑도는 내용이 나오면 시장에 부정적으로 영향을 줄 것으로 예상됩니다. 단기간에는 말입니다. 이번 배터리데이의 핵심은 여러 가지가 있겠지만 테슬라의 자체 배터리 생산 계획과 중국 CATL과 협업하여 만들 100만 마일, 그러니까 160만 킬로미터 배터리 생산 발표입니다. 아시는 것처럼 테슬라는 자체 배터리 생산을 위해 로드러너 프로젝트를 진행하고 있지만 구체적인 언급은 아껴왔었죠. 테슬라의 이런 배터리 생산을 포함한 수직적 통합, 그리고 배터리 효율 향상은 로보택시, 자율주행 등의 시사점이 있습니다. 테슬라가 왜 100만 마일에 주목하냐면 테슬라의 계산에 따르면 로보택시의 경우 연간 9만 마일을 추가로 운행하게 된다며 차량의 수명이 약 10년 내외인 점을 감안하면 100만 마일의 배터리가 필요하기 때문이라고 설명했습니다. 테슬라 하면 떠오르는 게 아크 인베스트, 캐서린 우드죠. 오늘은 아크 인베스트에서 테슬라를 담당하고 있는 타샤 키니의 영상을 가져왔습니다. 지난 8월 28일 영상이지만 배터리데이 관련해서 관전 포인트를 많이 전달하고 있어서 가져왔습니다. 이 외에도 캐서린 우드의 테슬라에 대한 견해가 아크 직원 모두에게 공유되는지 이것도 이 영상에서 한번 확인하면 재밌을 것 같습니다. 이분 말이 빠르기도 하고 문장 안에 문장을 넣어가며 말하는 스타일이라서 자막 작업을 하는데 좀 애를 먹었습니다. 열심히 만들었기도 하고 내용도 참 좋으니까 끝까지 시청해 보시기 바랍니다.
Well, two stocks that have helped drive the recent rally, Apple and Tesla. Both
But, the long-term story with Tesla, our thesis is still intact. We think it's a leader in electric vehicles, in full autonomy, and we think it's 3 to 4 years ahead of the competition on that front. So from that perspective, our expected value for Tesla by 2024 is still 7,000.
7,000.
Yes.
I mean, it has the fundamental, that's a pretty high target when you consider where it's trading at right now. You mentioned that there's this fundamental misunderstanding of what a stock is, but we've heard a lot of investors or a lot of analysts who've come on and talked about the potential in the battery day, what could happen moving forward. I mean, is there a fundamental case for Tesla that has changed over the last month that has driven this stock even higher?
Well, I think, I think in general this year, there's been a couple things on Tesla's side. Of course, the earnings report was received well, the possibility of S&P inclusion. But really, I think that during the coronavirus shutdowns, it's become even more clear. So if we just look at the electric vehicle opportunity, if you think of a traditional automaker who is investing in electric vehicles and basically how they're going to handle that when their core business is really sinking, I mean, that just becomes a lot more difficult. And they were already struggling with the technology. It's not their core expertise. They have to build an entirely new car. If you want to copy Tesla, that means building it from the ground up. That just becomes 10 times harder in a time like now. So I really feel like Tesla's leadership in the field is solidified. And then, of course, on the autonomous front, we still see Tesla has much more scale than any other automaker, than any startup, because it's using its customer fleet to collect data. So that's still ongoing. So, I think more so now than ever, it's sort of as an innovator, because Tesla's so far ahead, it now has that sustained lead.
There's certainly a lot of excitement riding on Battery Day later in September. What specifically are you expecting on that front?
Yeah, so my partner analyst Sam Course has done a lot of great work on the batteries for Tesla. So one thing that we're currently excited about is there was some teasing of basically an improvement in energy density that would make it so that batteries would allow for electric jets. So Elon Musk has talked about supersonic electric jets before, but said that the energy density wasn't there. Now he's saying that could happen in the next 3 to 4 years. What that means is that could be an incremental improvement for electric vehicles, but where it really makes the difference is for vehicles that fly. So this could enable things like electric air taxis. So actually, according to Sam's work, an electric eVTOL, vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, could actually transport you, for instance, in New York, from downtown to the airport for the price of a taxi today. So this could be, very disruptive, very quick. You could basically fly over traffic. And we think, this could be a fully autonomous operation. And I think it's, it sounds like a very far out there idea. But the fact is we're actually approaching that point today because of these chemistry improvements.
So what you're saying is essentially, we're not likely it's not about just the shift of Tesla going from a manufacturer to supplier with its battery technology, but being able to expand where they supply the batteries in place.
Yes, well, it could exactly. It could sort of open up opportunities for batteries across vehicle form factors. So we think, batteries are sort of this innovative platform. One of the reasons we're so concentrated on them at ARK is because they enable disruption across a lot of fields. Electric vehicles is a huge opportunity, but it also enables things like drones. So this could be, in this case, the larger form factor drone that transports people or cargo. But you could also have drones that, of course, transport smaller packages. So again, this seems like a far out there reality, but it's here, it's now, and the technology is ready.
And Tasha, when you talk about the kind of levels you're expecting for the stock, upwards of $7,000, is the battery technology really going to be the catalyst to get it there? I mean, it's interesting. We've been talking so much about what has been working for Tesla, and the cars, the auto element of it almost seems sort of like an afterthought, given the potential you're seeing in its expanding business in other areas.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question because the expected value includes our assumptions for the core EV business, but also Tesla's position in enabling a fully autonomous taxi network. And actually one thing in our research that has changed over the past year, so Tesla's talked about launching this Uber-like autonomous service. On the last earnings call, Elon Musk said that he's basically at this point where he can drive from his house to work with almost no interventions. He thinks they're very close to solving for full autonomy. With our most recent research, so let's say Tesla launches a ride-hailing network with human drivers. They basically have to do this to learn the ins and outs of ride-hailing anyway, and to seed the autonomous network, sort of create the bones of it. But this is also an interesting business opportunity for them because Tesla's costs on a per mile basis to drive a Tesla, it's actually cheaper than the average vehicle on the road or than the average ride-hailing vehicle. So what that means is Tesla could take a higher cut than Uber and Lyft off of revenues. It could actually pay its drivers more. It could offer, vertically integrated insurance offerings because it's much more vertically integrated than the ride-hailing networks. And it could be a really interesting time to launch that right now with a coronavirus epidemic because basically, there are these gig workers that are looking for work. There are customers that don't want to take public transportation, and Uber and Lyft are really hurting. So I think this could be a big opportunity for Tesla, and it actually sort of de-risks that autonomous thesis. Because if you think autonomous technology is crazy and it's never going to happen, well, okay, they can launch this ride-hailing network, and that actually gives them this software as a service like margin business model, this recurring revenue, without solving for that big technological leap. And if you do believe in autonomy, it also gives them the data to then feed that autonomous network and make it better.
And Tasha, it's fascinating to look at all the parts that way. Let me ask you really quickly, though, about what you see in the Chinese EV market. We had XPeng, which is seen as a competitor to Tesla, come to market this week. We've also seen a huge run-up in the stock for NIO, also a competitor, although that stock is down more than 6% today. Is that the case for growth in China still intact? And in fact, are we seeing it gain momentum now?
Yeah, so the Chinese market it's the most important auto market, and for electric vehicles, our forecast is 37 million EVs sold in 2024. China should be roughly a third of that. And actually, for autonomous taxis, we think the market value should be worth in the trillions at that point, around 4 to 5 trillion. And again, China could be a third of that. So it's a really, it's basically the most important market in both cases. And the electric vehicle market specifically, competition is very high. There's over 150 electric vehicle manufacturers in China. And it's a very unique market where the government has a lot of say in who wins. So that said, looking at startups like this, we don't think that a company like Tesla is going to be the only player in the certainly in the Chinese electric vehicle market, but also in the global electric vehicle market. I think it's really important to sort of see and watch how these companies get to scale. One important thing to look at for both of them is how much they're insourcing versus outsourcing. Again, because that vertical integration has been a really key advantage of Tesla's. It's very important when you're building a software platform on top of the car. And it's also of course, very important for an autonomous network as well. But you also get the full advantage of your battery system, again, if you're sort of vertically integrated. So I think, that both of those players are outsourcing some parts. So I think sort of watching that story and seeing what the end product will be, how much will they insource versus outsource, is an important thing to look at.
Tasha Keeney with ARK Invest. Always good to talk to you.
Great to see you, Akiko.